Bolivia should not exist the way it does. Not the country on the map, the one that actually exists beneath it, where the ground becomes a mirror so precise that the sky loses its boundary, where an entire lake runs the colour of open wounds, where a single road earned a name no road should carry, and where a mountain produced more silver than any other deposit in recorded history while consuming, over 3 centuries, more human lives than most wars. This is Bolivia. And almost none of it looks like it should be real. Bolivia sits at the heart of South America, one of only 2 countries on the continent without a coastline. It is also one of the highest nations on Earth. The western half of the country occupies the Altiplano, a plateau stretching nearly 800 kilometers from north to south, flanked on both sides by the full range of the Andes. The average elevation here exceeds 3,700 meters. In Bolivia, this is not the mountaintop. This is the floor. It begins in the southwest, at a place that resists every attempt to describe it accurately to someone who has never seen it. The Salar de Uyuni. It is not a lake, it is not a desert. It is the largest salt flat on the surface of the Earth, 10,582 square kilometers of what was once a prehistoric inland sea. When the rains arrive each year, a few thin centimeters of water cover the surface, and something occurs that has no proper parallel anywhere else in the natural world. The flat becomes a mirror. The boundary between the ground and the sky disappears entirely. You stand inside a perfect, unbroken reflection of the universe, unable to determine where the Earth ends and the atmosphere begins. Imagine stepping onto the surface for the first time. Beneath your feet, the salt has crystallized into interlocking hexagons, each one a precise geometric tile pressed into the Earth by millions of years of evaporation and compression. The silence here is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of something vast holding its breath. The air at this altitude carries a cold that has nothing to do with wind. It enters through the lungs slowly, as if the atmosphere itself is asking you to stop moving, to stop and remain, to simply look. And it is only when you stop looking at the horizon that you begin to understand the second thing about this place, the thing beneath the surface. The salar formed as a consequence of the transformation of several prehistoric lakes over tens of thousands of years. As those lakes evaporated, they deposited a crust of salt averaging 10 meters in depth across the entire basin. Beneath that crust lies approximately half of the world's known lithium reserves. In the 21st century, this silent, otherworldly expanse has become one of the most strategically important pieces of land on Earth. The electric batteries that power modern cities and modern transportation may one day depend almost entirely on what lies buried beneath that perfect mirror, a lake of sky above, half the world's battery future below. That mirror is not Bolivia's strangest body of water, not even close. Deeper into the southwestern corner of Bolivia, the landscape refuses to settle into anything the eye has been trained to recognize. The Laguna Colorada sits at 4,278 meters above sea level. It is a shallow salt lake, never more than 1 meter deep in any part of its basin. It is also, unmistakably, blood red. The color does not come from pollution. It does not come from mineral runoff. It comes from red pigmented algae that thrive in the extreme salinity and the radiation intensity of the high-altitude Andean sun. White borax islands break the surface in irregular formations, contrasting the crimson water with a starkness that the human eye has no prepared framework for processing. On the shores, thousands of James's flamingos feed in the shallows. They have adapted to conditions that would kill most vertebrates on Earth. Why would any living thing choose this place? That question does not yield a simple answer. What the flamingo knows, or does not know, is irrelevant. What matters is that it is here, in one of the most hostile landscapes on the planet. Life not only persists but congregates by the thousands. That is perhaps the oldest lesson Bolivia carries for anyone who looks closely enough. The impossible and the living are never as far apart as they appear, but colour and stillness are not Bolivia's most dangerous geography. That belongs to a road. North of the Altiplano, the Andes drop away toward the Amazon basin in a series of descents so extreme that they appear, from above, to be geological errors. The road that descends from La Paz into the Yungas lowland covers approximately 64 kilometers. In that distance, it drops nearly 3,500 meters in elevation. For most of that descent, it's a single lane cut into a sheer cliff face, with no barrier between the outer edge of the road and a vertical drop falling hundreds of meters into unbroken jungle canopy below. It has a name. The Yungas Road was constructed in the 1930s, largely by Paraguayan prisoners of war captured during the Chaco War. For decades it was the only connection between the capital city and the fertile agricultural lowlands below. Trucks, buses, and civilian vehicles used it regardless of conditions, in heavy rain, in dense fog, in the dark. The Inter-American Development Bank designated it the most dangerous road in the world. In its most lethal years, between 200 and 300 people died on it annually. Entire buses disappeared over the edge, consumed by the jungle far below. Imagine driving this road before a bypass was completed. Not cycling it for sport as tourists now do on guided expeditions, but driving it in a loaded supply truck on a wet night with the cloud bank sitting at zero visibility. The cliff face on your right is close enough to touch through an open window. The left side of your vehicle extends over open air. There are no guardrails. There is no emergency lane. There is no margin. There is only the road, the dark, and the understanding that a single misjudgment ends everything. Not slowly, but immediately. You drove it anyway, because the alternative was starvation. It is not merely a dangerous road, it is a record of human necessity pressing itself against natural impossibility, of the decision, made again and again by ordinary people, to cross something terrifying because survival required it. That decision is not unique to Bolivia, but Bolivia is one of the few places where the terrain makes it visible, permanent, and undeniable. The road is marked at intervals by small crosses, each one someone who did not arrive. Less than 10 kilometers from the center of La Paz, the earth changes without warning. The Valle de la Luna, the Valley of the Moon, is not a valley in any conventional sense. It is a landscape of eroded clay and sandstone spires, ridges, and narrow canyons compressed into a small area at the city's edge. Millions of years of erosion by wind and infrequent rain have carved the soft sedimentary rock into formations that bear no resemblance to anything found at ground level. From above, it looks like a surface that belongs to another planet entirely. From inside, walking between spires that reach 10 meters in height, the disorientation is complete and immediate. The city's edge is visible from the valley's rim. Traffic sounds carry faintly across the eroded ridgelines. Yet standing inside the formations, it becomes entirely possible to believe you are alone on an unknown world. That tension between the impossible and the immediate, between the ancient and the modern, is what Bolivia consistently does to the mind of anyone who spends time inside it. It refuses to let you settle into certainty. The geological mysteries are extraordinary, but Bolivia's oldest secrets are not geological. They are human, and they begin at the edge of a lake that sits near the top of the world. In the north, a different kind of impossible waits. Lake Titicaca sits at 3,812 meters above sea level. It is the highest navigable lake on Earth. It covers more than 8,000 square kilometers of the Andean Plateau, shared along a border between Bolivia and Peru. Its depth in certain areas exceeds 280 meters. The water is dark blue, almost impossibly blue for a body of water at altitude, clear enough in the shallows that the bottom is visible several meters down. For centuries before the arrival of European explorers, Lake Titicaca sat at the cosmological center of Andean civilization. The Inca believed their founding ancestors, Manco Capac and Mama Oclo, emerged from its waters, sent by the sun god to bring order and civilization to the world. In their understanding of reality, this lake was not merely a body of water, it was a point of absolute origin, the place where everything that mattered began. The civilization that built its mythology around this lake was vast, sophisticated, and consequential, but it was not the first, not even close. The Uros people have lived on floating islands constructed entirely from totora reed in the lake for centuries. The islands are built and maintained by hand, with new layers of reed added continuously as older ones decay beneath the surface. To walk on them is to walk on something both solid and alive. The ground shifts slightly beneath your weight. Beneath your feet, the reeds are slowly returning to the lake that grew them, even as new ones are laid above. Before the Inca, there was something older, something scholars are still working to fully understand. The city of Tiwanaku was constructed on the Altiplano, roughly 15 kilometers from the southern shore of Lake Titicaca, beginning around the year 110 of the Common Era. It reached its peak as the administrative and spiritual center of a major Andean empire between 500 and 900 CE, at its height exerting influence across a region extending from southern Peru into northern Chile and northwestern Argentina. Its builders transported sandstone blocks weighing up to 130 tons across the plateau, using methods that remain contested among archaeologists. 130 tons, across high-altitude plateau, without the wheel. The Gate of the Sun is a single monolithic arch carved from one piece of andesite volcanic rock. The central figure it depicts is surrounded by 48 smaller carved figures arranged in a pattern that scholars believe encodes a sophisticated astronomical and agricultural calendar. The Tiwanaku possessed no written language in any form recognizable to European scholarship. They recorded time, seasons, and celestial cycles in stone instead, and they did so with a precision that the stone has preserved for more than 1,000 years. It is not the size of Tiwanaku that is striking. Other pre-Columbian civilizations built larger structures in more hospitable climates. It is the precision, the astronomical knowledge embedded in the stonework, the evidence of long-range trade and political coherence stretching across an entire continent. All of it built at nearly 4,000 meters above sea level, in one of the most demanding climates in South America. Tiwanaku did not survive despite the Altiplano. It was built because of it. But nothing that came before, not the salt, not the Red Lake, not the road, not the ancient city, carries the weight of what lies further into the Andes. High above the ruins of Tiwanaku, deeper into the Andes, there is a mountain that changed the economic history of the modern world. Potosi sits at 4,090 meters above sea level, making it one of the highest cities on Earth. For most of the 16th and 17th centuries, it was also one of the largest cities anywhere on the planet. At its peak, Potosi had a population of 200,000 people, larger than London, larger than Paris, larger than Rome at precisely the same moment in history. The reason was silver. Cerro Rico, the rich mountain, rose directly above the city and contained the largest silver deposits ever discovered by European colonial powers. Between 1545 and 1800, the mines of Potosi produced an estimated 60% of all the silver circulating in the world economy, 60% of all the silver in the entire world. The cost was immeasurable. Estimates suggest that between 8 million and 9 million people, primarily indigenous Andean workers under the Mita forced labour system and enslaved Africans, died in the mines over 3 centuries of extraction. The silver extracted at Potosi funded the Spanish crown, financed European wars, and flooded Asian markets through trade routes that circled the entire globe. The mountain is still being mined today. Imagine descending into Cerro Rico. The air thickens immediately. The ceiling drops. The temperature falls. The dust that coats the tunnel walls is the same dust that coated the lungs of millions of men who entered and did not leave. The mountain presses around you from every side, and somewhere above, in the grand cathedrals, the minted coins, the funded wars of another continent, the consequence of this darkness is visible everywhere except here, in the place where it was made. There is a phrase attributed to the colonial period, a claim so extravagant it was reportedly inscribed in the city's founding documents, that with the silver pulled from Cerro Rico, one could build a bridge from Potosi to Spain, and with the bones of those who died extracting it, one could build a bridge back. That is not a metaphor. That is arithmetic. Bolivia is not only a country of the high places, more than half of Bolivia's territory falls within the Amazon basin. The eastern lowlands, the river-laced llanos, and the forests of the north contain some of the most biodiverse and least explored ecosystems remaining on Earth. Rivers that eventually become tributaries of the Amazon begin their journeys here in Andean glaciers that are now retreating. In the Madidi National Park alone, biologists have identified more than 1,000 species of birds, more than are found across the entire continental United States. There are communities within Bolivia's Amazon territory that have had no consistent contact with the outside world. Others maintain deliberate isolation as a matter of survival and cultural continuity. In the 21st century, in a nation connected by satellite and telecommunications, there are still rivers down which no paved road leads, still forests in which the sounds that reach you are the sounds that existed before any city was built, before any mountain was opened, before the arrival of the ships that changed everything downstream. Imagine standing at the edge of one of those rivers at dusk. No engine sound, no distant traffic, no light but the last light crossing the canopy above. The river moves as it has moved for 10,000 years, unbothered, without record, without witness. Something is alive in the trees on both banks that has never been named. Something is moving in the current that no taxonomy has reached, and you understand, standing there, that the world has not been fully discovered, not even close. What does it mean that this still exists? That somewhere on Earth, a river flows through an unbroken forest, unhurried and undivided, as it has flowed for 10,000 years. That may be the most impossible thing Bolivia contains. Not the mirror lake, not the red water, not the mountain that altered the history of global currency, the forest that remains. Most people will never stand on a salt flat that reflects the entire sky. Most people will never drive the edge of a road where the margin between life and consequence is the width of a single tire. Most people will never press their hands against a stone carved by a civilization that measured the stars without a written alphabet. Most people will never descend into a mountain that consumed 9 million lives. Most people will never hear the silence of a forest that has never been cut. That is precisely why Bolivia matters. Not because it is accessible, not because it is easy to reach or comfortable to understand, but because it holds within its landlocked borders the full range of what this earth is capable of producing, the geological, the ecological, the historical, the human, compressed into a country most people could not locate on a map without assistance. There is a particular kind of place that resists summarization, a place where every answer opens into a deeper question, where the ground beneath your feet carries more undocumented history than most nations claim, across their entire recorded past. Bolivia is not one landscape, it is not one story. It is the story of what happens when the earth stops following its own rules, and what happens when human beings choose to remain inside that refusal, and perhaps that is what makes it impossible to leave behind, not the salt, not the silver, not the roads that ended without warning in open air, the feeling, standing inside any one of these places, that the world is far larger, stranger, and more fragile than anything you were told it would be. I am your narrator from the Untold Opus. Subscribe because the world is bigger, stranger, and more fragile than most people realize.